Hello, this is TelecomTV. We are reporting from Dusseldorf in Germany at the SDN and OpenFlow World Congress 2014. I'm Martin Warwick and I'm talking with Michael Kay, VP Business Development at Procera. Michael, thanks for talking to us. Quite a big show this, very, very busy. It shows how dynamic and important SDN and NFV have become in a very, very short time. It's well known that both these technologies will enable operators to build more efficient networks. So what business transformations have we seen so far, and how ready are SDN and NFV for wide-scale deployment?
So I think we're seeing a couple of transformations in the NFV space today. The first is occurring with the fixed operators in their ability to transform their customer premise equipment infrastructure into a virtual environment. That allows them to drive down the cost of all of the equipment that gets deployed across their infrastructure, and it also allows them to be more agile in differentiating their services and delivering services to their customers more quickly. I think the second trend that we're seeing, and this is more in the mobile operator space, is the ability for virtualization to enable mobile operators to deploy intelligence more pervasively across their infrastructure, and this allows them to get a better feel for their customer experience and create a richer subscriber experience environment.
Thank you. Second part of the question was, how ready do you think SDN and NFV are for wide-scale deployment? We're seeing proofs of concept here. There are 14 or so live running, demonstrating exactly what's happening with vendors, with operators, service providers all working together to do it, which is good and refreshing to see. But how far away are deployments?
So if we were to have this conversation 8 months ago, you would have gotten a different answer from me. In that if you looked at the beginning of 2015, analysts projected that roughly 70% of the operators were going to go through some sort of proof of concept, and then a small handful of operators would do limited deployments of NFV. It's interesting in that we're seeing that actually come true, in that for us, we're beginning to see customers not only trial and proof of concept their technology, but they're also leveraging our technology in some of their production implementations. So I actually think that it's a bit more real than we thought it would be in the beginning.
Well, that's good news as well. Now, the tier one operators, telcos, service providers particularly, but it's applicable to many others as well, have rivals, competition they never expected in the form of the OTT players, Amazon, Google, and so on. How will SDN and NFV enable them to compete properly and effectively against the OTT lot?
So OTT is a huge challenge for the operators, and specifically video. If you think about it for both mobile and fixed, video consumes roughly 50% of their bandwidth, and that's growing at 66% plus year over year. So it's going to be phenomenally important for them to be able to address that. What virtualization and specifically NFV allows the operators to do is to effectively change their infrastructure and how they react to and respond to that OTT traffic that comes across their network. So it's going to allow them to be more agile in responding to it, to handle the consumption of all of that traffic that comes across their network. And it's also going to provide them richer visibility into that traffic so that they can now create new differentiated services and be able to offer their customers an array of services that they couldn't before.
Okay, thank you. Having said that then, Michael, what in your opinion do you think will be the key services and applications? Are there any others on top of what you've just been talking about in terms of video, because we know the data is increasing exponentially, that will be enabled to launch? You know, you mentioned service agility. How agile do they have to be to do this, and what services?
Well, they have to be very agile. And part of that comes with the ability for them to deploy virtualized instances of technology across their infrastructure. An example of an operator leveraging that would be, in the past, they had over-the-top video that was flowing across their infrastructure.
Yeah.
The monetary gains for that OTT video was going back to the content and advertising providers. By allowing the operators to have more visibility into that traffic, it allows the operators to actually now participate in the monetization of that traffic itself. And that comes in the form of either sponsored data services or in the form of them being able to do their own ad insertion in the future to become a part of the advertising community to the subscriber.
Right. Everything we've seen here is predicated on the technology, but also on the concept of openness. How open is Procera to openness?
So Procera from our beginning has been a collaborative company. If you look at our technology, effectively we're intelligent software running on COTS server technology. And in the past, we've chosen to provide that technology to our customers in the form of an appliance. In the future and today, we deliver that to them in the form of software. Now, if you look at collaboration and openness in the NFV community, it's paramount. As a matter of fact, if you're going to participate in NFV, by its nature, it's collaborative. So Procera began early on in our strategy building partnerships with the ecosystem providers within the virtualization space, as well as the other VNFs that we would have to participate in with as a part of a service chain. And so from our strategic perspective, it's important to not only partner with the infrastructure that lives below you, which we have a strong partner base, as well as the infrastructure that lives around you.
Good, thank you. Now, one thing that hasn't been mentioned much, but it's obviously coming up in the lift, is everything now is about horizontalization. It's about the cloud enablement, SDN, NFV, and all the rest of it. Where does BSS and OSS sit in that? Because BSS, OSS, which has changed radically in recent years, is very much siloed, secure, vertical thing as opposed to horizontal. And I've heard a couple of people here at the show saying the next problem for us is going to be the adaptation of BSS and OSS.
I think it is. And I think if you look at the evolution of NFV, and we always have to remember that the NFV community is less than 2 years old.
Indeed.
So we've grown at an amazing pace. The initial underpinnings of NFV and the community efforts were all centered around trying to create openness and create a reference platform that these VNFs can run on. So you've seen a lot of activity focused around performance optimization, interoperability, testing out technology use cases. The next evolution of that, as we move into a norming stage, if you will, of NFV, then the next evolution is now to take all of those network functions and chain them together as a part of a business process. And that's where we're seeing companies just now begin to peek into how they're going to transform their BSS and OSS environments. But I think that's going to be probably one of the next waves of evolution of NFV.
I absolutely agree with you. It's interesting to see how the whole thing's moving in that direction. When we started talking, you said if we were back in last February, back in Mobile World Congress or anything like that, we would be getting different answers to these questions, which shows how quickly things have moved along. Now, it's only 20 plus months since all this broke upon the scene, and there's been a lot of hype around it, but hopefully some of the hype is now dying away. And as you say, we're moving from the informative to the normative. But what about the perceptions of the players in NFV and SDN? What were expectations and perceptions 20 months ago as compared to today? What are the differences?
So I think if you were to look at it 20 months ago, the expectations for the VNF providers from the operator community were around interoperability. I want to be able to demonstrate and prove that you can all work together in a collaborative fashion to be deployed across my infrastructure. Those expectations are now changing, specifically in our space. They're changing to not only interoperability, but now the ability for us to provide platforms that run in software and virtualized at the same performance and reliability level as they ran in hardware.
Michael Kay, thank you very much. We'll see what the difference is next time we meet. I'm sure we will moderately soon. I'm sure things will have changed again. But until then, many thanks.
Thank you very much.